Hi, this is John Phillips as part of the activities group at Hermitage, Northern Virginia. We're reading this to our friends and neighbors here at Hermitage. There's no profit, there's no gain, and this is a non-profit organization. The name of the book is One More Time, Just for the Fun of It, Notes from Fair Acres by Effie Leland Wilder. The copyright is published by a special arrangement between Guidepost and Peachtree Publishers Limited. The text is copyrighted in 1999 by Effie Leland Wilder, and the illustrations are copyright 1999 by Laurie Allen Klein, and all rights reserved. So we're going to pick up where we were before, is on chapter 2 in this book. So the chapter 2, Special Deliveries. July the 17th. Today was my son's birthday, and that got me to remembering the youngest of our 4 children, our extra dividend, we called him, among a few other names, was born when I was 43. And wouldn't you know it, he was the fastest and brashest of the whole lot. The neighbors had fun watching me chase him down the street. Sometimes they would come out and help, quote, the poor old soul, my husband Sam's nickname for me, and which I felt like at the time, running him down. It didn't do my ego any good either when people would come up to me in a store and say, what a cute little grandson that you have. None of it seemed to bother Sam. He just went around with his chest stuck out, Big Papa. He didn't have to chase a ball of fire from sun up to sundown. By the time Big Papa came home from work, his youngest son's energy was on the wane. Sam couldn't understand why I looked and felt like the wreck of Hesperus. Why, indeed. I'll give you one example. One morning when Raymond was about 3 and playing with his blocks on the floor, I left him long enough to answer the phone in the next room. The conversation only lasted about 3 minutes, but that was long enough for Ray to take his chance and fly the coop. I ran all over the house calling him, searching the porch, every closet. And after a minute, I spied him outside on top of the garage. With the help of a barrel and a tree limb, he had reached the garage roof. And he was sitting on his front legs, calmly and casually, with his legs hanging over the roof. In a shaking voice, I called out, Raymond, come down from there. He looked straight at me and said, you make me nervous. I wonder where he'd heard that from. 2 doors down from us lived a nice 16-year-old boy named Robbie Dent, who was becoming famous as a high school quarterback. He heard the commotion and helped me with the rescue. Robbie had apparently paid Ray some attention, and the little tyke looked up to the teenager. None of us realized the extent of Ray's attachment to and regard for this older boy until one Sunday morning. Ray was missing from his bed at 7 o'clock. While we searched frantically for this little fellow, just 3 years old, Robbie Dent was waking up and finding an unexpected visitor in his bed. To his shock, Raymond McNair in his pajamas was snuggled under the covers in Robbie's bed and grinning up at him with the biggest smile. Robbie told us later, he scared the heck out of me, but I couldn't fuss at him to save my life. I know just how he felt. I finally had a chance to settle down to calmer middle age when Raymond entered school. He had looked forward to the first grade, but for some reason it didn't live up to his expectations. Maybe because the teacher was younger and stricter than this poor old soul. Anyway, I remember one cold morning in November when Sam got up early and lit a fire. Ray stood with his backs to the flame, getting a thorough warming all over his backside. After a while, Raymond announced very calmly, I don't think I'll go to school today. I think I'll just stay at home and I'm going to warm my butt. Oh my! It's hard to believe my rambunctious Raymond is just about the age I was when he was born. I sent him a card, but I must remember to call him tonight and wish him a happy birthday. Later that day, after lunch, when the men had left our table, probably having heard enough she talk, we women began to compare notes about the births of our children. All of us had delivered in the good old days when the mandatory stay in the hospital was 10 days, 10 blissful, restful days. I believe some women had the second child just to get that heavenly rest. Nowadays, they throw mama and child out the window as soon as they can get the cord cut. Mercy's story was different. I didn't go to hospital when my child was born. We looked at her in amazement. You see, my sister was a nurse, and she married a doctor, and they lived on the outskirts of a small town upstate. The Depression was still on. Times were hard, and I was delighted when they asked me to come to their house for the birth. I was glad to get a rural-free delivery. July 20th, Curtis and Paul were ruminating and smoking on the terrace tonight, and I was listening at the library window. They were talking about the plans for the swimming pool that is being built. As a result of the money Paul won in a national car naming contest last spring. "How do you think it's looking?" asked Curtis. "Okay, I guess, but I'll be glad when they actually start digging. I want to make sure I get to dive in at least once." Curtis chuckled. "I reckon I'll do a belly buster if I try. I tell you what's going to be funny, Paul, is looking at some of these characters here in bathing suits. In fact, I wrote a verse last night to Madam Geneva Tinkin. You want to hear it?" "You know I do." "Okay. My dear Mistress Tinkin, you got me to a thinkin'. Your two-string beanie to wear a bikini." Paul whooped. So almost did I. I began to think of some other figures, including mine. I tried to picture Stephen Comstock in the pool. He had expressed an interest in using it. I don't believe there's a measuring tape big enough to go around his waist. As my Sam would say, he was built when meat was cheap. I guess we'll have to go to Omar the tent maker to have a